let's talk about how to have strong parent communication for your special education classroom. It's essential that teachers are intentional about the parent communication in your classroom. Whether you are a first-year teacher or a veteran teacher, parent communication is a must. Teachers and parents need to collaborate and be on the same page. And there's always, and here's some ways to help you get started with parent communication this school year and promote that collaboration. So here are some parent communication basics. Working with parents is so important. Parents have the opportunity to make or break your day. How many times have you come home feeling defeated because a parent had made a comment about your teaching or blamed you for their child's struggles? This is so real. You need to find a way that works for them and communicate with your families as early as possible to find their preferred mode of communication. So you could do phone calls, you could do emails, a notebook home, secure texting apps, which I'll talk about a little bit later. You also should ask how often they'd like to be communicated with. Many parents want daily communication and others prefer weekly communication. Take their preferences into account. Keep open parent communication. Parent collaboration and communication needs to start before the school year begins. As soon as you get your caseload, you should begin parent communication. If you haven't created a system yet, it's not too late to start though. Meeting with parents before the school year begins should be a high priority for you. You can begin to gain trust and build those relationships. The extra initiative will go a long way with families. A couple ways you can do this is by sending an email, maybe introducing yourself, making a phone call, it's very personal, and sending a meet the teacher letter in the mail or schedule a video chat, right? Everything's digital now. A little bit of effort goes a long way with parents. Take the time to show them that you really care. When I reach out to families before the school year, before the school year begins, I'm mindful of their time. I ask if it's a good time to talk or if this is the best way to contact them. Some families prefer email while others prefer phone calls. So really just keep it into consideration. If this is not a good time to talk, try to schedule a time to talk in the near future, right? We want to make sure we're mindful of that. So here are some questions that you can ask families. Tell me about your child. What are their nicknames? What are their favorite items? What are some triggers? Any medical information I need to know? Any allergies? What do you feel are your child's strengths? What would you like your child to improve on this school year? Right? That really helps. Opens that door. What would you like for your child's future? Where do you see them in 5 years? What's your biggest concern for your child's school or in life? If nothing else, what 2 things would you like your child to be able to do by the end of this school year? Sometimes those short goals really do help. How often would you like me to communicate with you? It's amazing to talk to families about the hopes, the dreams, and the fears that they have for their child and for their growth. Some of these questions really do scare parents, and they're too long and too forward-thinking. However, listening to them and their story makes a huge difference in gaining their trust. Finally, I always ask parents how often they would like me to communicate with them after all those questions, right? It helps give me a better understanding of their expectations from me. And if a parent asks for daily communication, I really do try to set up some type of daily communication notebook with them. And if a parent asks for a weekly communication update, I may use like a website, which I have listed below or talked about below, and I will tell you about them. And I send a weekly email at the end of the week. So it ensures that I'm communicating enough to meet the needs of my family. So how do I communicate with them? As the school year starts, it may become difficult to keep up with parent communication. I get it, believe me. So make a habit out of it and schedule that time in each week to communicate with families. Take one planning period a week to send an email, post in your Seesaw class, or send home some photos of their child. I typically use Fridays to communicate with families. It's the end of the week, kind of wraps it up. And I may spend an additional 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the day to send out an email or maybe make a meaningful phone call to recap the week. So I don't do that with every family. I kind of rotate. Here are a couple helpful websites and apps that maybe help your parent communication. Remind, I use all the time. ClassTag, ClassDojo, Seesaw, Schoology, Google Classroom you can even use communication with. At the beginning of the school year, I always communicate with the families once a week. I always try to start that off, make sure it's as often as possible. But as the school year progresses, I communicate with families maybe bi-weekly. This can be by sending a reminder email about upcoming no school days, sending photos of their child in the class, or just getting a general email about how their child did in a particular activity or a session. Setting up office hours is another way that you may want to communicate with families. This kind of helps you set that boundary too for yourself. Setting up that time where you are available to meet one-on-one with parents that have questions or concerns. I know some teachers may not have that flexibility and that freedom, and that's okay. But try to use maybe a planning period once a week or twice a week to offer maybe parent meetings. A little bit can go a long way, so that little step might just really help. Above all, take some time to show that you really care about their child and you really know them. So some ideas might be send them cards on their birthday. Every couple weeks, send a positive message home. Make sure that they are authentic and not just general, like they did a great job in class. For example, you might use, Josh did a great job in reading today. This is very general. Try to be more specific and say, maybe Josh raised his hand and participated in reading today. I know reading can be a struggle for him, and I loved seeing his willingness to participate. When he did his reading activity, he was able to correctly answer all the WH questions about our story. I was so proud of him, right? That's more authentic and more specific. Over the past few years, I've realized that a little bit does go a long way with our families. That extra time and effort before the school year starts, that extra time and effort with a phone call that you make during the school year really does mean a lot to families. So I hope you found this really helpful in communicating with families. Thank you for watching today's video. If you're new here, make sure to click that like and subscribe button. It would mean so much to me. Click the bell to get notifications for when new videos get released or I go live. As always, leave a comment if you have any questions.